how could there be a God with all the negative things that I saw? Really, I kind of was vehemently against there being a God. And then in college, there were just things here and there that were difficult to go through that happened to me personally. And, when that stuff happens, it's hard to envision how God can fit into such tragic moments. And it just really was something that I pushed against with both hands firmly, that there's just no way that there could be a God.
Did grow up with a cleft palate and hearing loss, which meant that I wore hearing aids, which in and of itself, not the biggest deal, but I did always kind of feel like an outsider. I always had that nagging question too, is if people really liked me for who I was, and that was for a child, that's something that you think about probably more than you should. But as an adult, it kind of always made it so that I was striving for a couple of things. I was trying to strive to be a person that people liked. I wanted to kind of prove that I was a worthy person, so to speak. And I would really put in a whole bunch of hours really trying to make sure that I was successful, whether it was at school, getting really good grades. I really tried to kind of take some pride in being a quote-unquote good person and doing the right thing and having the moral high ground, so to speak. So I was very concerned with how I was coming off to people.
I really had a hard time forgiving and seeing anyone's side other than my own, and it caused a lot of grudges that I was extremely good at holding on to for long periods of time, and years, that I couldn't even fathom forgiving, because it just didn't even seem like the other person was worthy of that forgiveness, or that I needed to forgive them at all.
I tried so hard to be successful and it was something that I felt like I did underneath my own power, that there was a certain pride to it, that I deserved to have the things that I wanted. And so if I didn't, if I had to sacrifice something, I felt like I really deserved to have something else, which was not really good. We did get introduced to the idea of church, to the idea of God. We resisted for some time, but we did get to know some people, and it felt very inclusive and very just assuring to find people that were walking in the same stage of life.
There was joy that was radiating through every facet of their hangouts, their get-togethers, when they were at church. They really enjoyed going to church, which I remember talking about. We were like, why? And that was intriguing to me, and we were coming from such a place of struggle and not joy that I wanted to know what that was. How do I get that?
And we started actually hearing and reading some of the Bible, and really kind of understanding some of the things that we were so proud of, that were realizing that we were looking at them kind of the wrong way.
I was pointed to scripture on how Romans 8:28, for example, talked about how God will use all things for good when it comes to those who believe in Him.
It led to a softening of our hearts and an ability to see ourselves in a different light, in a different way, that I was able to even look at my so-called strength that I would have considered, and realizing that I had been relying so much on my own to get things done.
I would look for evidence on the opposite side of things that I was struggling with. So we did a lot of digging in that, which I think just helped us to realize all the times that there were bad things that happened to people in the Bible who did some pretty great things, and God really did have a plan.
There was this point where I realized that I needed Jesus, because I realized that I was going to fizzle out, that I was going to lose my strength.
And I was literally kneading the cinnamon rolls, and it was mid knead in the middle of folding in that flour that I all of a sudden it just felt like it hit in the gut with this realization that I had really sinned against my husband and different relationships in our life. I burst into tears right then, right there. But it was the first time that I felt such real conviction, and I was so good at holding on to grudges and really feeling deeply justified. I got on the phone and I started texting Cam, who was at work, and all these incoherent text messages because he had no context of what was going on in my brain. I'm not sure I had context either, but I couldn't have made that happen on my own. I wouldn't have made that happen on my own. The very first time we talked about it, I had said, I'll fake it till I make it. And this was the first time where I was like, this isn't faking it. This is something that is beyond my control. I can't make myself, I wouldn't push myself to try and go apologize to people.
I just felt like I needed to stop trying to do things my way and trust Jesus to do it for me. I had to be perfect. If I messed up, or if I did something, and those terms have been like immoral or whatnot, if I had these things that I felt like were not good, my answer was always that I just needed to continue to work on myself, improve myself, fix myself. I needed to keep working, which is fine, but it just left this sensation of just always being underweight, the weight of it was always on my shoulders, of just trying to have to muscle through it. And when I realized the truth of that, apart from Jesus, apart from Him, I can't do it on my own. And the freedom of understanding that by putting my faith, putting my trust in Him, He came down and lived a perfect life for my sake, because I cannot. And it was such a freeing reality that just swept me off my feet. There was that understanding that it wasn't all about me. It wasn't all about, I didn't have to struggle this way for the rest of my life. I needed to put my faith in Jesus, that He did all that for me, and that He died on the cross, so fulfilling that perfect life that I would never be able to do. It just lifted all that weight off of me, and just such a great feeling.
My grandfather had gotten sick and was in the hospital, and he just wasn't doing well. He wasn't responding to the treatments that they were doing. They couldn't really figure out what was going on, and he did end up passing in the hospital. We weren't all able to be in the hospital to say goodbye, but we were able to be up at my grandparents' house. Henry was in a crib next to me. Quarters were tight, and I was about 3 feet away on an air mattress, and Cam wasn't there, so it was just harder to feel comfortable and to seek comfort. And I felt so alone and in pain. And it just, you're trying to go to sleep, and all your mind can do is perseverate on the fact that someone you love is gone. And I remember literally just curled up on the air mattress and trying not to cry loud enough to wake Henry, and begging God to come and take the pain away, because it just hurt so much, and it was something that I always struggled with as I was begging him to take away the pain. It was just a moment of, I can only describe it as peace that had just kind of come over and settled over me, and I was able to breathe again and just calm myself enough to go to sleep, which was another moment that I can only say was God and his mercy and his love. He was showing me who he was, and wasn't something I could conjure. Certainly isn't something that would just come naturally to a situation like that, especially for myself, where I feel very deeply intent to be ruled by my emotions. And I hold on to that moment. Shortly after that, I felt like I was saved, and that I was able to articulate and say from my heart that I was giving my life for him, and that I could feel his love. And but I had to take my eyes off of myself first and actually lean on him to do something that I couldn't do myself.
In this time where we want to be put down and depressed and grieve over all these different things in our lives, all the different things in my lives, all the burdens and all the struggles, it's a reminder that it's ultimately like my joy in the Lord and everything that he has done for me, that is where really the strength comes from. It's Jesus who gives me the strength, and it means so much, because instead of being the one who has to do all the work, who has to toil, who has to take on all the weight, I don't have to struggle that way. I just need to put my faith and put my joy in the Lord, and he will do it for me. And that's so freeing. It's awesome.
Suffering was one of the big things that was keeping me from God, and I was pushing away from him. And then in this instance, this was God using suffering to pull me closer to him. Oh my gosh. This is my husband, Cam.
And this is my wife, Emily. The love of my life.